Data breach which exposed details of Afghans was a deeply regrettable incident that placed thousands of vulnerable people at risk and should never happen again. But no further regulatory action is required at this time, the Information Commissioner said today. Thousands of Afghans who supported British forces are being secretly relocated to the UK under an £850 million scheme triggered by the data breach. Nearly 19,000 names and contact details were accidentally leaked by a defence official in 2022. The Afghanistan response route, set up last year, aims to protect up to 100,000 people at risk of Taliban reprisals. Defence Secretary John Healey offered a sincere apology for the breach in a statement to MPs in the Commons this afternoon. New figures from the Department for Work and Pensions reveal almost 1.3 million migrants are now claiming universal credit. That's a near 50% rise in claims since 2022, with EU nationals making up the majority at just under 800,000. Another 200,000 claims come from non-EU nationals with indefinite leave to remain, and 120,000 from refugees. The surge is reigniting debate around welfare immigration and who should be eligible for support. BBC Director General Tim Davie has condemned the serious racist term used by presenter John Turode after it was announced his contract on MasterChef will not be renewed. In a post on his Instagram account this evening, Turode claims he'd not even been told that he'd been sacked, and he reiterated that he has no recollection of what he's accused of. Yesterday, the TV chef said, "I don't believe it happened." But in a statement today, the show's production company, Banijay UK, said it and the BBC are agreed that his contract on the show will not be renewed. The review upheld 45 allegations against his co-host Greg Wallace, mostly involving inappropriate sexual language and behaviour dating back to 2005. Tim Davie spoke about today's news with the BBC.
Very simply, we had this review that was done by Banijay looking at the programme. It focused primarily on Greg Wallace, but there was 2 complaints that came through and were upheld critically by Lewis Silkin. One related to John Turode. The position is really clear from the BBC that to Banijay and with the team to look at that situation and make sure that action was taken. I was not directly involved in the looking at the detail, but I heard what the recommendation was, and I was happy that the team were taking action.
And US President Donald Trump says Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky should not target Moscow. It's after saying he's disappointed in Vladimir Putin following strikes by the Kremlin on Ukraine, including on a nursing home. In an interview, the US president said he's not done with the Russian leader. He also claims a Ukraine peace deal was close before Putin launched fresh attacks. Asked how he'd stop the bloodshed, Mr. Trump said, "We're working on it." Mr. Trump also pledged new weapons for Ukraine, but has insisted he's not taking sides.
No, I'm on nobody's side. I'm the no. I want to, you know what the side I'm on? Humanity's side. I want to stop the killing of thousands of people a week. I want to stop the killing. I want the killing to stop in the Ukraine-Russia war. That's the side I'm on.
And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More news from me in an hour. Now it's back to Farage.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Well, summer recess may be approaching rapidly, but there's no shortage of stories. You could have knocked me down with a feather mid-morning when we learnt that the Department of Work and Pensions for the first time had published some figures we'd never seen before, telling us that 1.3 migrants are on universal credit at a cost of £12 billion a year to the taxpayer. Wow, I thought, that's our big debate tonight on GB News. But since then, something even bigger has broken. It turns out that in 2023, an officer of the British forces mistakenly put out a whole bunch of data about Afghans that potentially could have fallen into the hands of the Taliban and endangered their lives. And in so doing, we finished up offering asylum to about 25,000 of them. About 7,000 have accepted, some have come, some are on their way. It's all come at a cost of £7 billion. But here's the extraordinary thing. This is unprecedented. The government had a super injunction on the media not to cover this story at all until it broke at midday today. Here was Defence Secretary John Healey in the House of Commons earlier on today.
Mr. Speaker, this serious data incident should never have happened. It may have occurred 3 years ago under the previous government, but to all those whose information was compromised, I offer a sincere apology today on behalf of the British government.
Now, it's quite possible that some people whose data was compromised may well have had their lives threatened by the Taliban. But perhaps from our perspective, what should alarm us is some of those on that list were convicted sex offenders who have now made their way into this country under that scheme. This story is one of incompetence. This story is one of cover-up. And this story is one that does actually threaten the safety of many people on British streets. It is a grubby, grossy story. I'm joined in the studio by Niall Gardner, former aide to Margaret Thatcher, and Scarlett Maguire, former Labour advisor to many, many ministers. But I'm joined down the line by Tobias Ellwood, former Conservative Member of Parliament and former chairman of the Defence Select Committee, who's been involved himself in one or two Afghanistan controversies over the years. Tobias, I mean, obviously, the original breach of data of itself, just unforgivable.
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of ground there in your introduction. This is exposing another sad chapter in our long and difficult involvement with Afghanistan. It will trigger very difficult emotions, as you allude to, you know, from the mission creep at the very start, back in 2001, that saw us move from pursuing Al-Qaeda after 9/11 to then nation building a country we did not understand, to then fighting an insurgency, the loss of hundreds of brave service personnel. We then had a panic departure from Kabul and then handed back the country to that very same insurgency. And now it looks like we've been turning our back on the Afghan people, not just the population, the 40 million, but also the individuals that helped us run those operations, mostly in Helmand province. And this data breach itself, you know, the scheme designed to support those Afghans that were supporting us, it does prompt big questions. What scheme will now operate in the future? What are we doing, wider picture, to actually support Afghanistan? There's nothing about a strategy to prevent the country from sliding into an even darker place. You talk about migrants and moving across from Asia to Europe and then London. Okay, it's turning into a vassal state. China is running the place. ISIS-K is now taking over from Al-Qaeda. The economy is collapsing, and there's millions affected by malnutrition. So this breaking news prompts so many searching questions about what we should have done, but also what we need to do in the future to support this country.
Well, you're right, of course, in a way that there are people who acted as interpreters for us who we absolutely deserve to give safe haven to. I wouldn't argue with that for absolutely one moment, but equally, there are some on this list who are serious criminals as well. So it's, you know, there is some and some here with this. But I want to ask you this, Tobias. You know, it is unprecedented for a government to take out a super injunction against multiple media sources to cover up the leak, to cover up the plans for repatriation or patriation to this country for those that wanted it, and the astonishing cost. How the hell is it costing £7 billion? How the hell is it costing £300,000 each to get these people back? Was the government wrong to go down the route of super injunction, or was that level of secrecy necessary in your opinion?
So firstly, on your original point, absolutely right, that the numbers of people that were trying to get onto that list, many of them had no right to be there at all. They did not support us in Afghanistan. They were trying a fast track to get out of the country for whatever reasons. And the actual list itself ballooned incredibly because of that. So working out who deserved to come is another, challenge in its own right. The second piece is actually, I don't think we have the answers to yet. My initial thoughts were the super injunction was in fact necessary to provide the support for those who genuinely deserve to come here. Their names could have been exposed, eventually given to the Taliban. They could have been persecuted. There could have been reprisals. Therefore, you needed that super injunction in place to allow that to happen. But I'm with you in a more transparent perspective. I want to see more openness. I think there are therefore questions to be asked as to how long a super injunction was allowed to run. Clearly, it's now been released, and therefore there's a determination by the High Court, by the Lord Chamberlain, to say there's no longer a threat to those remaining on the list, or, as your point is very powerfully made, they don't deserve to be on the list in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Tobias, thank you very much indeed, as ever, for joining us live on the programme. And that's the point, Scarlett. You know, I thought actually Tobias summed it up pretty well, that there were people on the list that deserved to be there, others that probably didn't. Desperately difficult situation. But for a super injunction to last for 2 years is astonishing.
Yes, but what I gather is actually they were trying to do the best for the Afghans on the list. There's no question that the Taliban are evil, vindictive, they kill people, they torture people. If they found out, that was the worry, that they would find out the people on the list and that they would go to them and go to their families. And so, and I'm sure that, I mean, the reason that the injunction was lifted was because the High Court said they're no longer in danger.
Yeah.
But as long as they were in danger, the judges said, look, I don't know, but I mean, I would trust a judge. I mean, if I was given the choice of, well, he might be in danger or he might not, I'd say keep the super injunction up. I mean, I just think that we owe. I mean, we owe the Afghans? We walked into their country, as he said, mission creep like nothing else.
We owe the interpreters. I get that.
Many more. I
remember, funny enough, when we first went into Afghanistan, being shown on the BBC pictures of women in burqas. We were going there to liberate them, and now we allow burqas on our streets. An irony that doesn't escape.
Well, when I was in Afghanistan, there were, and we were obviously there because I was safe. I was with the British Embassy. There were women in burqas everywhere. I mean, you never saw. We certainly did not get rid of women in burqas. What we did do was we got girls into school. That's what you'd go in the morning and you'd see these little girls walking to school.
And sadly, since Biden's catastrophic withdrawal.
Well, and Trump actually, I think there has to be something, is that Trump did negotiate it with the Taliban. Trump did not talk.
Trump would not have left like that.
That's what you say, but he was never given the chance.
Niall's a very transatlantic thing. Well, you are in many, many ways. Could an American government get a super injunction to cover up something like this?
I don't think so.
They couldn't,
I think it would be viewed as outrageous, actually, and I think that there's a fundamental lack of transparency here. At the end of the day, the British government has to protect the national security of the British people here, and that is of the primary national interest here. And I'm very concerned that amongst those who are coming from Afghanistan, there may be those individuals linked to ISIS, Al-Qaeda, for example, Taliban fighters who are using this to come over to the United Kingdom. And when you talk about tens of thousands of people coming here, this is a major national security issue, and there has been a fundamental lack of transparency on this. And I think there should be an inquiry into exactly what has happened here.
Well, you see, I wonder, Scarlett, if we've just learned about a super injunction about this, what else aren't we being told?
Absolutely.
Can you see why a story like this makes people lack trust in government?
Yes, and everything. I mean, the thing about super injunctions is we don't even know they exist.
That's right.
Right? So we have no idea. We have absolutely no idea. But all I'm saying is that I do understand. I mean, one is you have to... I know you don't like judges, but in the end, you have to...
I don't like left-wing judges.
Well, there are very few of those, I can promise you that.
Nearly all of them.
Oh, yeah, sure. Look, is that you have to trust somebody. I mean, and actually, this judge said, enough is enough. There's nobody in danger now. We've taken out 18,500. That's enough. And at the beginning, the government obviously it was all about Afghan safety rather than, I hope, covering up a terrible, terrible mistake.
No, I mean, as I say, this story is about fundamental incompetence. It's about government cover-up for good or bad. But it's also about increased risk to this country because some of the people coming are bad dudes.
Yep, and I mean, what I'm hoping is that they're looking at the 18,500. I mean, if you know, do you know that they're sex offenders?
We know there are sex offenders on the list.
But,
yes, yes, we do.
Okay, so if you know, then they know, then they should be monitored.
Well, let's hope they do something about it.
I mean, that's what's got to happen.
I just, I mean, transparency in government. Under the American system, a Senate committee would uncover all of this, wouldn't it?
I think there would be hearings into exactly what has happened.
Well, there will be now. Of course there will be now.
There does need to be transparency. And if there are criminal elements among those coming in, well, they need to be sent back. They should not be here in the United Kingdom. It's as simple as that.
Shocking story. Now, it's the anniversary. The anniversary of Donald Trump being shot when he was out there campaigning in the American general election. The bullet, if you remember, going through and grazing the bottom of his ear. And BBC correspondent Gary O'Donoghue was actually there in Pennsylvania on that day and managed to get a phone call with the president where he spoke very, very frankly. And we're going to discuss that in a moment. We're going to discuss, is he any closer by threatening effectively China with tariffs? Could peace come any more quickly? Just briefly, back on the Afghanistan story, an MOD spokesman has said the MOD has made it clear that the rejection is nothing to do with the alleged criminal behaviour, as is being reported in some publications. Well, believe what you want to believe from that. But let's discuss, is the idea of secondary sanctions on Russia, as opposed to sanctions on Russia itself, i.e. sanctions on Russia's trading partners, could this end the war in Ukraine? All of that in a moment.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Well, some of your reactions to this Afghanistan story. Phil says the best thing to do is to keep out of foreign wars that don't concern us. Jones says John Healey apologised to the Afghans, but what about the British people who will have to pay $7 billion for this mess with no say? Well, I rather agree with that. Judy says we knew the Tories were bad, but this Afghanistan debacle has taken their incompetence to a whole other level. Once again, British taxpayers have been treated like idiots and forced to foot the bill for a monumental state cover-up. Now, last night, I mentioned before the break this quite extraordinary interview, telephone interview between the BBC's Gary O'Donoghue and President Donald Trump, and it was actually a very, very thoughtful conversation. But the bit that really matters, I think, is what he had to say about President Putin.
Very unhappy with him, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there.
So Donald Trump believed, absolutely believed, that he could have a rational conversation with President Putin, bring him to the table and negotiate a peace deal over Ukraine. It clearly hasn't happened. And now he's turning against Putin. Some will say not before time. But the whole object of this is to threaten China with 100% tariffs because they're the ones buying Russian oil and Russian gas. Can this work? Well, somebody who has been a consistent, very outspoken critic of Vladimir Putin and fearful of what he might do is Colonel Hamish de Breton Gordon, who joins me down the line. Hamish, welcome back on the programme. So Trump realises that Putin is not going to do a rational deal. I think that's kind of, we're there, that's done. In the past, we're used to the concept that you put sanctions on the country you don't like. This concept of secondary sanctions, I have a feeling it might just work. What say you?
Good evening, Nigel.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me on. I think you're right, actually, and I think we need to look at sort of both things that President Trump was talking about yesterday. The first thing is allowing Europe to buy a lot of the sophisticated missiles that Ukraine really needs, and in numbers that will make a difference. And that's a huge psychological boost to people in Ukraine, because Putin now knows that Ukraine can put a cruise missile through his window of the Kremlin, and it's likely to get there because we know that US missiles are pretty impervious to Russian air defense, and we saw that in Iran. So that is a huge positive. It's also a huge psychological blow to Putin and the people of Russia. Now, when you put that alongside the secondary tariffs, sanctions, that President Trump's talking about, you're going to get a really compelling deal, because not even President Putin can make ammunition and weapons without any cash. And if the Chinese and the Indians decide that this is good enough not to buy the oil, and oil's cheap at the moment, they can buy it anywhere, then Putin's war machine is going to run out of road, I think, pretty quickly. So I am delighted. I've been a critic of the President Trump as well, but I think he's got this one absolutely right.
Yeah, so do I. No, so do I. But you, more broadly, Hamish, I mean, you genuinely think, from what I can read, you genuinely think that Putin would not stop if he took Kyiv and Ukraine, that he would simply carry on?
No, absolutely not. And quite frankly, he's been telling us that for a few years. His aspiration is to be the Peter the Great of the 21st century and recreate the old Soviet Union borders, which go well beyond Ukraine. And he knows that if he stops now, he will be finished like most Russian dictators. But there has been nothing really to stop him. You know, another good thing that President Trump has done has woken us here up in Europe, that the defense of Europe is really our primary concern. And we've so overspent the peace dividend since the end of the Cold War that when Putin looked west on the 24th of February 2022, he didn't see a conventional deterrence. He now sees that we are building a conventional deterrence, and with the might of the US military sort of underwriting it, now you can see that when Putin looks out of the Kremlin, he's got serious decisions to make. So, yeah, I think President Trump's come to the same conclusion. Putin ain't going to stop just through some rhetoric. He needs some hardware, and he needs his coffers really tightened to make him think again.
Well, Hamish, I've been telling everyone for years that Trump was not anti-NATO. He just wanted to bully the others into paying up, and maybe he's done it. Final thought from you, if I may. From what limited knowledge I've got of it, it appears that Russia are still gaining ground in Ukraine, steadily, attritionally, week by week. How would you read the current state of the war?
Well, I think their gains are pretty marginal. They've lost over 1 million soldiers in this war. When you think Britain lost 340,000 in the whole of the Second World War, how on earth the country put up with it? They're having to buy 30,000 soldiers off the North Koreans, which is beyond imagine. So I think things are relatively static. And I think if those US missiles are used wisely, and I'm pretty sure the Ukrainians will, the Russians will be on the back foot. And if their coffers run dry, I think Putin's got no option except within 50 days to come to the peace negotiation table and get a just peace for Ukraine, which they deserve.
Well, let's hope so. Final thought, if I may. Absolute terrible error from the British military in Afghanistan. This list of names being leaked, us now resettling people at massive cost, some of them deserving people, some of them undeserving people. How the hell is British military intelligence failing this badly?
Well, I think all of us who served in Afghanistan have been devastated by this news and also what's happened over the last 4 years. Over 400 British soldiers stayed in Afghanistan and will never return. So it is absolutely shocking. And it's very disappointing to see. And I think, that there will be some bad actors who are part of this lot, and we must hunt them out to make sure that they don't create terror in this country. But I'm sure what the MOD must do is make sure this absolutely doesn't happen again.
Hamish, thank you very much indeed. Well, I agree with Hamish. We must hunt them out. Pretty much, Scarlett, what you were saying, actually, during the last segment. We must find out who the wrong people are. Donald Trump, a global peacemaker, strengthening the West, strengthening NATO, finally taking on Putin. Really good news.
I really hope that it happens. My worry about Putin is that he's not somebody to back down, and he's somebody to just to do more. I mean, they've already threatened.
So the weaker he gets, the more dangerous he gets.
Yes.
In some ways.
Well, I mean, I think it was there was somebody being interviewed today who basically said, well, if we have Patriot missiles coming to us, we're going to take it that we're being attacked by America. We're being attacked by NATO, and we're going to hit back. And Putin has been threatening nuclear war since the beginning. And so it's not over.
Don't you think if it really came to that, his own generals would take him out?
Well, I hope so. But I mean, sort of 6 months into the Ukraine war, you might remember his own generals felt that he wasn't being tough enough, and I mean they were bonkers right-wingers, right? Absolute nationalists.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm sorry. There are bonkers left-wingers as well.
I know, but the Wagner group.
You have to sink into your default position on this.
But they were. No, they were. But what we have to remember, and it's absolutely right about what Putin wants. But I mean, you look at places like Kazakhstan, right? And basically, they're Russian satellites, right? He's got a lot of Russian satellites, but I mean, I think he's very, very dangerous. That's what I'm trying to say, and we have to remember that. And when people are, in holes, they can be really, really vicious.
Seriously, no, I mean, I've got enormous respect for Hamish de Bretton-Gordon, enormous respect, and he's been pretty critical of Trump, quite consistently. But suddenly now, Trump has made NATO stronger. And he's finally turning the screws on Putin.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was in The Hague for the NATO summit a couple of weeks ago. I saw American leadership on the international stage. Trump is the saviour of the NATO alliance. He's not the destroyer of it.
I agree.
He's the champion of NATO. NATO will be far more strong and effective as a result of President Trump's leadership. And so he's really leading while most European leaders, frankly, have been appeasing Putin for decades.
By buying all the gas.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Germans in particular.
They're still doing that now.
I have to say, Niall, I'm thoroughly enjoying all of this because, you know, I was told, oh, you're a friend of his. He's going to destroy NATO. He's actually made it stronger. In a moment, we're going to talk about electric vehicles, the utter lunacy of this British government who don't believe in God, but they do believe they can stop global warming.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's pretty unsettled across eastern parts of Europe as we go through this week. Frequent showers bring the risk of some intense thundery downpours. A different story further west though, across Madeira and the Canary Islands. It's dry here on Wednesday, also dry across parts of Portugal and Spain. Meanwhile, further east, Italy will see a few showers, but the showers more frequent, more intense towards the east. And like I said, that brings the risk of some heavy thundery downpours. Through the rest of the week, it's looking largely dry for most.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a breezy and at times wet Tuesday, showers ease overnight, cloud breaks up, and then actually a fine period of weather through Wednesday for the vast majority. We've had low pressure in charge during Tuesday. That's slowly pushing away into the North Sea, taking its persistent rain with it, but leaving behind a legacy of cloud and outbreaks of showery rain for central and southern Scotland, northern and eastern England. Meanwhile, the next low starting to move up from the southwest, albeit relatively slowly, bringing some rain back into Cornwall, parts of Devon by the end of the night. In between, clear spells and a cool start to Wednesday, but a bright start for many of us away, that is, from the southwest of England, where it's going to be damp with some persistent and at times heavy rain. That's going to be pushing into Exeter, parts of Somerset, Dorset through the morning. Wales getting off to a bright start. Northern Ireland the place to be first thing. Plenty of sunshine here. Likewise for western Scotland. I think further east across Scotland, thicker cloud and some remaining showers. Nothing too heavy at this stage. And those showers will be easing during the morning. Northern and eastern England likewise seeing some cloud and some showers. And as temperatures rise through the day, there's likely to be one or two further showers developing through central and southern Scotland, the far north of England. But elsewhere across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southeastern England, it's a bright day, plenty of dry weather and feeling warm once again in places mid to high 20s likely. A different story for the far southwest of Wales and southwest England. Rain here, pushing then further northeast as we begin Thursday. Not much rain, it has to be said, for Wales and the southwest as we start off Thursday. The heavier showers move through Northern Ireland and western Scotland, where it will continue to be unsettled as we start off Friday. Further southeast, it's warmer, sunnier, and with temperatures reaching 29 Celsius, feeling hot again in places.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Baby. We've all got to go green. It's really, really important. Boris started it, of course, by saying we become the Saudi Arabia of wind. Theresa May wrote it into law that we had to be net zero by 2050, and it's now become the new religion of our London political classes. We must all bow down before net zero. Don't worry how much it costs. Don't worry how many factories it closes. Don't worry that it is destroying the British car industry, who in the last year have produced fewer cars than since 1948. Can you believe it? But a boost for electric vehicles. Labour will now, as Ed Miliband announced yesterday, give a direct subsidy of £3,750 for every electric car you buy under the value of £37,000. But the point is, people aren't buying electric cars in huge numbers because they simply don't trust them. If they drive them and they leave the big cities, they suffer from range anxiety. The resale value on these cars is terrible. And I think people take the view that petrol and diesel engines are now becoming so much more efficient that when you fill the tank, you probably get double the mileage that you were 20 to 25 years ago. Niall, it's as if this is the great religion. I listened to ministers this morning discussing this, and we're told that if we give the lead, the rest of the world will follow and will stop global warming.
I think the whole net zero approach from the Labour government is absolutely insane. It is massively...
Well, hang on.
Yeah.
It's not just their approach. This was the Conservative policy too.
Yeah, it was previously Conservative policy. I think that, it's hugely damaging for the British economy. It's very destructive. It's massively expensive. And I think that the path being taken towards net zero is the path to ruin, really. And that's what we're seeing in Britain. In the United States, of course, it's completely different. The Trump administration has abolished all of these crazy net zero goals and so on, advanced by the Biden presidency. And in the United States, you have consumer choice. You can choose whether you want to drive a petrol vehicle or an electric vehicle. The vast majority of Americans, very sensible people, choose to drive petrol vehicles because they're more cost effective. Yeah. They go further distances without having to be fueled up, and they're more reliable. So I think leave it to the public to decide what they buy. Let's get this net zero monstrosity off the backs of the British people. It is economic suicide, and it is the most destructive approach that we've seen in many decades by any government, frankly, and it's going to ruin the British economy if this continues.
Well, I fear this. And Scarlett, it doesn't really matter whether it's Boris or Ed Miliband. They're all the same. They put these targets on British car manufacturers. Consumers aren't playing ball. We're destroying the car industry, literally self-destructing the car industry on these EV mandates. It's madness.
No, they're encouraging people to buy electric, so they're subsidising it. That's all. I mean, you can if you want to buy
unless a certain percentage of the cars that are sold by the big companies are electric, they get fined.
No, but they're looking at that again. But I think a lot of people do want to buy electric, particularly people who live in cities, right, where most of the time they're not going very far. Electric is non-polluting. It's quiet.
Hang on. You've got to make the electricity.
You've got to make the electricity
to fire them up.
But
Nigel,
if like me, you have
the batteries can't be recycled.
I have solar panels.
I'm sure you made in China.
I'm sure they were.
Oh, there you are.
I'm sure they were, but actually, but I can tell you what they do. God, they cut my electricity bills. I mean, it's almost nothing at the moment.
By the way, I do actually think the solar panels on roofs for local, for private hot water production, etc., makes sense. I just wish they weren't made in China. But OK, if I haven't convinced you yet, I'm now going to convince you that our net zero green policies are insane. Right, hold on to the sides of your seats for this one. This is the What the Farage moment of the day. David Lammy is handing £70 million to Singapore for clean energy transition. Singapore is fourth in global GDP production. Singapore has produced more millionaires per capita in the last 10 years than any other country on earth, and Scarlett, our Foreign Secretary, is giving them 70 million quid of British taxpayers' money, often from people who can barely afford it, so Singapore can go greener. This is insanity.
I'm assuming it's soft power. I'm assuming that what...
Oh, please.
Well, look, there's got to be a reason for it, right?
Yes, they've all gone mad.
No, don't... They have not.
No, they have gone mad.
No, they've not gone mad. It's actually about having a say in the Asian region. I mean, it's really important, as you say, very high growth in it, so that we get something back. That's what it's about.
They have gone mad, haven't they?
It's completely, absolutely crazy. David Lammy, I have to say, is the worst British Foreign Secretary of the modern era. I think this is absolutely disgraceful. I'm giving foreign aid, basically, to an extremely wealthy country that doesn't need any foreign assistance. And in many respects, I mean, Singapore per capita is significantly wealthier than the United Kingdom. And so this is an absolutely insane socialist approach, a perfect example of why international development assistance should be dramatically cut in terms of government spending, and a monumental waste of taxpayer money.
I think nobody is pretending it's international development.
It's astonishingly stupid. But, you see, you've got a government here that believes in virtually nothing, really.
Nigel,
they believe in nothing.
Break.
What do they believe in?
They actually believe...
What do they believe in? What does Starmer believe in?
He believes in making Britain a better and fairer place.
No,
There's no question
he's not
about
doing
that.
a very good job.
There isn't... Well...
He's done very well with two-tier Britain, I'll give you that. In a moment, we're going to have a much more nuanced debate. All right?
I hope so.
A much more nuanced debate. Pupils at school are going to be taught to resist incel culture. Well, I kind of understand that, and yet, is there a danger that we're telling boys not to be boys? And if we're doing that, where do they go for their role models? All of that after the break.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
So, secondary school pupils in England are to be taught about incel culture and the links between pornography and misogyny as part of statutory government guidance published today, and it includes a new focus on positive role models for boys. And this is, as I said before the break, a difficult and nuanced debate. I'll give you some of my thoughts on this. I think we've spent far too long telling young men they can't behave like young men, telling young men it's wrong to be lads. I remember before the last big football tournament in Germany, as lots of young British males were on their way, they were being told, don't drink more than 2 pints of strong foreign beer, and please don't sing any songs that might cause offence to the Germans, to which I thought, what's the point of blooming going? You know, lads need to be lads. I think that's very, very important. But they need to have sensible, positive attitude towards young women as well. And something there has definitely gone wrong. Scarlett, it's sort of almost been going wrong as we tell lads not to be lads. There's almost been a massive rebellion against that. There are online influencers.
But you say it as though it's something new. I mean, I have a 40-year-old son. I remember when he was a teenager and I said, I'm not buying Nuts, which was a magazine.
Yeah, I loved it.
Right, precisely. And his friend who said, oh, my mum's like that. But actually, there's always been this dichotomy between, you know, boys will be boys. And I think it's really, really important that they are. But that doesn't mean that they expect girls in particular, I mean women, but what's so frightening is girls to do sexual things that they don't want to.
So do you think that the availability at the click of 2 buttons of pornography has changed people's minds?
Well, all the research says, and certainly Sarah Vine from the Daily Mail has been talking about this for years, all the research says that it has, and that boys have an expectation that girls will be around. And I actually think it's perfectly OK to tackle this in schools, to actually talk about it instead of pretending that it doesn't happen.
Yes.
But I also think we need more male teachers. And I said that when I was a school governor of a primary school, and I said we need more male teachers. And actually, because it was an inner-city primary school, I said we need more black male teachers.
Well, of course, we had a situation, didn't we, where under I'm not a great fan of the last Tory governments, but they did have the ability to pay certain teachers more, and that's now going to be removed by Bridget Phillipson's legislation. Tough to attract the kind of teachers you want.
Well, yes, but that wasn't men. That was sort of certain sorts of. And what she's saying is that we. I mean, I don't think pay differentials is going to get anywhere near solving the problem. No. I do think that we have to understand. We have to attract men to the teaching profession, and we have to say that, you know, it's not just a caring profession. And people like PE teachers, absolutely, they inspire boys, right?
Male role models now very, very important for teenage boys. No question about that at all. And it can be sportsmen, it can be rock stars, or it could be Andrew Tate. And, you know, Tate's got a huge following. He is very influential, but is he a force for good?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that it's very important for young men to have real role models. Fathers, of course, play the most important role, and I think the emphasis should be upon strong families, upon fatherhood, but also upon...
But much of that's broken down in modern society.
Yes, I think that needs to be reversed, really. And I think that a great deal of societal ills are the product of the breakdown of families and the lack of father role models.
Yeah.
At the same time, also, we've seen a collapse of discipline in schools. And we also need to see, I think, a return to the teaching of patriotic values, love for country, really. And this is very important. This is really lacking at this time, actually. And we have a society...
So now what you're saying is a return to old-fashioned values.
Yes.
will make boys, late teenage boys, early 20 males, better behaved.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think patriotism, traditional values, the importance of the family and the role of fathers, this is what is needed, really.
I think there's a lot of points that Niall, I mean, you might smirk slightly, but a lot of points he's made there are actually right.
No, OK, so when I lived in the States and I went to school in the States and I had to pledge to the flag every day, nothing made me more angry, right? So I actually...
Why is that, though?
Because I thought, why am I having to do this?
Surely it's a good thing to be patriotic and to be respecting the flag. That's a great thing. It unites the whole country together.
Well, I'm talking about being an 8-year-old, and I found it terrible. I am a British patriot, right? I absolutely love my country, and that's why I choose to live here. I think it's fine to talk about the family and father, but real life is that, you know, there are a lot of broken families that need supporting, and that's what we need, is we need to support families rather than lecture them that, you know, there isn't a father or there isn't this.
Can we be confident that schools, given this instruction, are not going to use it effectively as an anti-male propaganda tool? Because that's my worry.
Well, I think if you go into a school, that you go into a mixed school or a boys' school, that you'll find that actually really doesn't happen. And what it is about is it's about talking about respect. It's about respecting girls and respecting yourself.
Can we have lads' culture and respect for women?
Of course you can. We've always had it.
Good. Good, because I'm all for a bit of lads' culture. I think it's what young men need.
I think it's fine, men going out and drinking. And women, actually. And in the 90s, remember, we had lads and ladettes.
Yes. And I think the conversations the girls have are much ruder than any of the conversations the boys have.
Oh, precisely. I can tell you that.
Across the pond, is this debate going on across the pond about male role models, breakdown of families? Is it similar or not?
Yes, I think there's a similar debate in the United States. And I think that the United States is returning really to traditional values, family values, the importance of the family. And I think that is being strongly emphasised now in many Republican-run states in the United States. And there is above all a strong emphasis upon, you know, getting rid of all this woke, trendy left-wing ideology in schools, which has been hugely destructive.
Poisoning.
Can I just say?
Last point.
Last point. Donald Trump's thing, the ambassador to Romania got the Tate brothers out. Donald Trump is in favour of Andrew Tate, who is a declared misogynist. Not family values at all.
Actually, Donald Trump's never expressed support for Tate at all.
No, he hasn't.
He has.
Although some of his officials may have done. All right, listen, that's it. I did say to you it's possible that we can actually have some nuanced debates on this show without me calling people stone bonkers. It's possible. Coming up next, I'm sure there'll be more utterly rational debate coming up, well, maybe not, I don't know, coming up on State of the Nation with Alex Armstrong. Alex, what have you got in brief?
Well, look, 1.26 million migrants now on benefits.
Unbelievable.
It's an incredible number, £1 billion a month. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, Nigel. So we're going to really dig into those shocking numbers. I've got the nurse coming on. If you remember the story, the nurse that was misgendered a trans person who was then sacked for the misgendering. She's coming on to tell her story. So that's going to be bombshell stuff. And there's a man coming on who said he'd never come on to GB News. He's coming on to debate me over the 1 in 5 pupils now not speaking English as their first language. So he's had a big furore on Twitter.
There you are. I guarantee you, folks, no nuance at all with Alex Armstrong coming up first. Let's get the weather with Aidan McGibbon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following a breezy and at times wet Tuesday, showers ease overnight, cloud breaks up, and then actually a fine period of weather through Wednesday for the vast majority. We've had low pressure in charge during Tuesday. That's slowly pushing away into the North Sea, taking its persistent rain with it, but leaving behind a legacy of cloud and outbreaks of showery rain for central and southern Scotland, northern and eastern England. Meanwhile, the next low starting to move up from the southwest, albeit relatively slowly, bringing some rain back into Cornwall, parts of Devon by the end of the night. In between, clear spells and a cool start to Wednesday, but a bright start for many of us, away, that is, from the southwest of England, where it's going to be damp with some persistent and at times heavy rain. That's going to be pushing into Exeter, parts of Somerset, Dorset through the morning. Wales getting off to a bright start. Northern Ireland the place to be first thing. Plenty of sunshine here. Likewise for western Scotland. I think further east across Scotland, thicker cloud and some remaining showers. Nothing too heavy at this stage. And those showers will be easing during the morning. Northern and eastern England likewise seeing some cloud and some showers. And as temperatures rise through the day, there's likely to be one or two further showers developing through central and southern Scotland, the far north of England. But elsewhere across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, central and southeastern England, it's a bright day, plenty of dry weather and feeling warm once again in places mid to high 20s likely. A different story for the far southwest of Wales and southwest England. Rain here, pushing then further northeast as we begin Thursday. Not much rain, has to be said, for Wales and the southwest as we start off Thursday. The heavier showers move through Northern Ireland and western Scotland, where it will continue to be unsettled as we start off Friday. Further southeast, it's warmer, sunnier, and with temperatures reaching 29 Celsius, feeling hot again in places.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello and good evening. This is State of the Nation and I'm Alex Armstrong. Coming